Eddie? Call the August meeting of the Hyde County Board of Commissioners to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here in Home Quarter and Feed Room here, and all those on Facebook Live. If you will, I'm going to ask Ben if he'll lead us in our prayer.
If you will, Val. Lord, we just come for you tonight, and we thank you for all the blessings that you've given us. And Lord, we just ask that you be with us tonight and help us make the decisions that are best for the residents of this county. And guide us and let us do the things that are pleasing in your sight. And also, we ask for just comfort for Commissioner Toppin's family, and we're thankful for the time that you gave us with him. And we just ask all these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You have an agenda before you. Do we have any additions or to the agenda? No, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Simmons. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. All right, we have the minutes of the June 6th meeting. Are there any corrections to those minutes? On page 5, under contracts for maintenance of David Ventures, part where Commissioner Paul moved to approve the contract, this states that we got this, needs to be maintenance service, Davis Ventures with Michael Adams. Got that? Are there any other corrections?
My only question would be, previously the minutes came with numbered lines. Is very helpful.
I understand it's a Microsoft Word thing. I don't have Microsoft Word, so I'm working on trying to get that imported in.
Okay, thanks.
All right, are there any other corrections to the minutes? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So move.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Swindell. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. We have not a public hearing. Do you have any public comments? Dorian?
We had numerous online and emailed public comments. I added them to your board packet, and they're available online in the board packets as well. A little too many to read through them tonight, but they are posted online at hydecountync.gov under the board agendas.
Are all of the comments these that are included in the packet?
Yes, sir.
So all of the ones that I have are on one topic.
They are all the same.
So all the comments were on the one topic.
Yes.
Just for the record, that topic is non-resident property owners who are advocating for a different kind of status that might provide them with access to some of the benefits that full-time residents have on the island.
Are there any comments?
I read all the comments, and it's something that we're having some conversation.
Are there any comments from here in this room? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to items to consider.
Our first items to consider fall under appointments. Our first appointment will be an appointment for the Swan Quarter Township Commissioner seat. The Hyde County Democratic Party Executive Committee has recommended the appointment of Ms. Goldie Mae Topping of Swan Quarter to fill the Swan Quarter Township seat on the Hyde County Board of Commissioners. You'll see in your package a letter attached from the 3rd Congressional District NC Democrat Executive Party recommending Ms. Goldie Mae Toppin, and the recommendation is to appoint Ms. Toppin.
Make that as a motion. Good.
Have a motion to appoint Ms. Goldie Mae Toppin to fill the seat vacated by James Coppin. We have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Swindell. Any discussion?
I would just ask, I want to make sure that he's comfortable with it, and, cause I know the way I got on here was when Anson Bird passed away. I was put on here, and his wife asked me to serve for him. And I just, as long as she's good with it, I'm happy. It's gonna, I just pose that as a question. As long as she's happy, I want her to come on with it. I don't want her to be pressured. And that's, actually, the lady asked me, she said if I would please do it. So I just, as long as that's all I ask. You good with it? Perfect.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Commissioner Toppin to come forward and take her oath of office. Our clerk of Superior Court will swear her in. And if you'd like your son to come up with you, Ms. Goldie, that would be completely appropriate.
Place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of your office as County Commissioner of Hyde County? So help you God.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Goldie, congratulations on your appointment to fill this vacant seat. And we're thankful for your willingness to serve. Look forward to working with you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Did you have anything you'd like to say?
No, I'm just glad to be here.
Okay, we're glad to have
They are wishing you well on this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. We are lost without Miss Lois Stokesbury, and we will certainly be glad when we get her back. And she'll be back hopefully for your next Board of Commissioners meeting. And thank you for the flexibility you have. Our next appointment is for the Bhm Library Board. The chair of the Beaufort Hyde Martin Regional Library has requested that Ms. Gwen Mullen be reappointed to the board. Her term expired in December of 19, and I recommend that you approve that appointment.
Do I hear a motion to approve Ms. Gwen Mullen as a reappointment to the BHM Regional Library Board?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Swindell. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
The North Carolina Association of County Commissioners 113th Annual Conference Business Session was held today, August 6th at 11 o'clock. Each year, each county is entitled to vote on those items that comes before the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. We polled our commissioners and selected Commissioner Pugh to represent us, which he represented us in today, and Commissioner Paul was his secondary. And so we can ratify this decision to approve Chair Pugh as the NCACC voting delegate and Vice Chair Paul as alternate.
Do I hear a motion to ratify the appointment of Earl Pugh and his voting delegate and Tom Paul as alternate?
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Simmons. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Swindell. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Our final appointment tonight is an appointment to the Ocracoke Waterways Commission. Commissioner Paul has nominated Ms. Chelsea Futrell to the Ocracoke Waterways Commission. Ms. Futrell is a resident of Ocracoke and has worked in and is an advocate for the commercial fishing industry. And my recommendation is to appoint Ms. Futrell to the Ocracoke Waterways Commission.
Do I hear a motion to appoint Ms. Futrell to the Ocracoke Waterways Commission?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul, second by Commissioner Simmons. Is there any further discussion?
I'd just like to say that I was very pleased when Chelsea agreed to be on the board. I think she brings a lot of experience to the board, and she'll be a really good member. Looking forward to having her on that board. And for all of you who know Chelsea, you know she has two small twins, and the condition on which she agreed to be on the board was if she could bring her twins to the meetings. So it's going to liven up our meetings quite a bit.
We have a motion.
Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
The next section on our agenda are resolutions. I'd like to present to this board a resolution of respect for the Honorable James Roger, Little Brother Toppin. Whereas the Swanquarter Township is located in Hyde County in the great state of North Carolina and serves as the seat of the county. Whereas the Swanquarter Township was privileged to have the Honorable James Roger, Little Brother Toppin, duly elected to serve as its commissioner on the Hyde County Board of Commissioners for the historic county of Hyde. Whereas James Roger, Little Brother Toppin, loved this county and its people, its natural beauty, and was granted the opportunity to live here most of his natural life, and left his earthly home to peacefully enter his heavenly home with the Lord on Monday, June the 29th, 2020. Whereas James Little Brother Toppin was appointed to the Hyde County Board of Commissioners as the first African American to hold that position in 1987 and held the seat for 18 months and was again elected to serve on the Hyde County Board of Commissioners in 2018, serving until his death in June of 2020. Whereas it was always in his nature to help people and serving on the Board of Commissioners is where he hoped he could help the people of Hyde County the most. Whereas he was an active member of the Hyde County Transit Board and the Hyde County JCPC Board, he was a member of the New Branch Masonic Lodge number 785 in Swan Quarter. He served as a member of the Arabic Order of the Mystic Shrine, Rafet Pasha Temple number 175, a member of Holy Royal Arch Masons and Bright Star of East Chapter number 74. Whereas James Roger, little brother, Toppin, served Hyde County as an elected official, but let it be resolved that the Honorable James Roger, little brother Toppin, rest in peace to the servitude of a higher calling. And therefore be it further resolved that a resolution honoring the Honorable James Roger, little brother Toppin, become a part of the records of Hyde County Board of Commissioners, and a copy will be presented to his beloved family this day in August 2020. At this time, I would like to recommend to the board that they approve this resolution of respect for the Honorable James Roger, little brother Toppin.
So moved.
A motion to approve the resolution of respect for the Honorable James Roger, little brother Toppin by Commissioner Simmons. Do I hear a second?
Okay.
Second by Commissioner Paul. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Commissioner Toppin, do you have anything to say? Yes, ma'am. The next item on your agenda is a resolution in support of Swan Quarter Volunteer Fire Department Substation. You will recall this group heard a motion to support the substation in our last meeting, and we wanted to do a little bit of work in regard to the language, which we have done. Over the last month, County Attorney Holscher has worked with our fire chief, Mr. Stokesbury, to craft the attached resolution in your book to build and operate a substation. I will ask County Attorney Holscher at this time if he has any comments in regard to the resolution language that they are proposing.
I don't have any comments. We revised it consistent with the discussion you had last month, and we talked to the chief about it. I talked to him personally, and he has reviewed this final draft, and he is fine with it if the commissioners are fine with it.
Do I hear a motion to approve the contract between Swan Quarter Volunteer Fire Department and Hyde County?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Yep.
Have a second by Commissioner Paul. Any further discussion?
The only thing I would say is I think that Fairfield has, their jurisdiction runs up to 264 in Lake Comfort. I think, doesn't it come across the list? Nobody knows that correctly, but I don't know what input they've had in this whole substation, but I did just definitely want to make sure that with the substation that there's input and where everybody works together to make sure that, you know, because I think from what I understand, this is going to be right in the area, right here at the South Lake.
Yes, sir. And so, to my error, I had hoped that Commissioner Fire Chief Stokesbury would be here in order to answer that question in particular. He has a question. He has a meeting across the road at the Volunteer Fire Department that was very important with our medical director, and he will be here later. County Attorney Holscher, after we have a motion and a second, Can we table this until later in the meeting when the fire chief is here to answer those questions and or concerns?
The only thing I'm saying, I'm not against the substation. I just want to make sure that we
And-
got volunteer fire departments with volunteer members, and I just want to make, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of a touchy situation at times,
And-
just to make sure they don't get nothing.
You can either act on it and then get clarification, or if you want clarification before you act on it, you can remove your second and the motion, and you can revisit it later in the meeting.
Benjamin, I got a call from some member from Fairfield a while back. And, I had also talked to, Jeffrey about it, and I've suggested those that the Fairfield Fire Department and Swan Quarter Fire Department get together and just talk about it. Now, whether they did or not, but I hadn't heard any more, and that's been probably a couple of months ago.
Right. And actually, I talked to the Fairfield chief today, but I didn't even ask about this, but that's my only concern. I don't want to become no feud over it. And again, we want the substation, but we don't want to, or all I'm saying, I just want to make sure everything is
Well,
on the up and up.
I think this resolution is supporting the, substation. It doesn't have anywhere in there where it'll be located, really,
Right.
in this resolution.
Well, I think a location at the end of, somewhere around the end of Lake Road is great. I don't know how all that works, and we got volunteers, you don't want to ruin the fire departments over some kind of.
And I will say that the fire chief is prepared to answer that. And I honestly thought that the first half of the meeting would go much longer, and he's scheduled to come over here at 7. And I think it would be great for you gentlemen and the people at home to get clarification on that item, because he's researched it thoroughly and is ready to answer that question.
Would you, withdraw your second, and then withdraw the motion, and we can table it?
I didn't say.
Well, somebody,
I think I seconded. I'll withdraw the second.
will you?
I made a motion.
Will you withdraw your motion?
I will.
Okay, well, then we'll bring that back up when Jeffrey's here to explain that. Is that all right with everybody?
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
And I apologize with the excitement of the appointment. I forgot I was supposed to have Mr. Stokesbury in the room before we went into that item, so that I apologize. We'll table that item and move on to your proclamation for Child Support Awareness Month. Hyde County is recognizing August as Child Support Awareness Month, and it reaffirms its commitment to strengthening Hyde County families by providing child support services to improve the economic stability and the well-being of children. Whereas Hyde County is recognizing August as Child Support Awareness Month and reaffirms its commitment to strengthening Hyde County families by providing child support services to improve the economic stability and well-being of children. And whereas the state fiscal year 2019-2020, more than $242,000 in child support, $242,000 in child support was collected from parents of Hyde County children. Whereas there are nearly 180 child support orders in place, working to ensure more than 179 children receive financial support from their parents. Whereas Child Support Awareness Month salutes the diligent working parents who spend time with their child and make regular child support payments to safeguard their children's future. Whereas strengthening individuals and families promotes the safety and well-being of children, provides stability, improves the lives of children, and provides opportunities for families to be able to enhance their children's future. Now therefore, we, the Hyde County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim August of 2020 as Child Support Awareness Month in Hyde County, and we commend its observance to all citizens. And I'd like to make a recommendation that the board adopt this resolution.
Is there a motion to adopt the Child Support Awareness Month in August?
So move.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, Commissioner Swindell. Is there any further discussion?
I'm all for them collecting child support, but ain't nothing I hate no worse when they're rude to me because somebody quits me that I'm taking child support out. And they get mad with me because they quit. Good God. I'm taking care of my children.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
Next item on our agenda are a series of state of emergency actions that Emergency Manager Joey Williams will present.
Good evening, thank you. The first emergency action that I would like to talk about is the proclamation ending Hurricane Dorian state of emergency. Through my research, I found that the state of emergency for Dorian was never lifted, and so I'd like to ask the commissioners to approve that, please.
So everything has been settled with Dorian?
We don't necessarily have to be finished with all our work, sir.
Just not in a state of emergency.
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, fine, sir. As a matter of fact, we do have a little bit of work left to do. We're still finishing the staging area at the Englehart Airport, the rehabilitation, and we're also still, we have to come back and finish the rehabilitation of the Lifeguard Beach parking lot in the fall when tourist season is over. But those pieces of work can be completed after the state of emergency is ended. The state of emergency ending will just change the board's ability to issue directives underneath the state of emergency.
Thank you. All right, do I hear a motion to terminate the state of emergency for Hurricane Dorian?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Commissioner Paul. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Swindell. I'm sorry, Commissioner Simmons. Is there any further discussion? There none, all those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
The next are is ratification of the state of emergency proclamation and the amendments during Hurricane Isaias. We started with a state of emergency, then we did an addendum for visitor restrictions, then we did another addendum for evacuation of the travel trailers, then a resident or a visitor and a resident evacuation, then another addendum for termination of the evacuation.
So moved.
We're gonna do all these at one motion?
Yeah, all the item B, that was all under item B, correct? Yeah, all as one motion.
All right. So we have a motion by Commissioner Paul and a second by Commissioner Swindell to ratify the state of emergency proclamations and amendments during hurricane that was just passed. Do we hear any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
The last is the proclamation ending the Hurricane Isaias state of emergency.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Swindell to end Hurricane Isaias state of emergency. That's why I didn't say it. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Joey.
Yes, sir.
I would like to commend Mr. Williams for getting his first hurricane under his belt. We activated the EOC. North Carolina State Emergency Management was very good to us, and after what happened in Dorian, they sent us a IMT team from the state. Was it 11 or 12 men, Joey? 11 men from the state came in, set up the EOC, walked us through the process and the job duties and functions of an IMT team. We are in a much better position after working through Isaias now for another storm. And so I'd like to commend the work that Mr. Williams did, along with our other staff members, our first responders, our volunteers, and thank everybody for the work that they did, and thank God that we were spared.
Well, thank you too, Joey, and hopefully this practice run won't be duplicated anytime soon.
I would like to second everything that Chris Noble just said. You did a great job, and I'd also like to second the proposition that maybe that'll be the last one for the year. We hope you don't have to do it again. But we're prepared.
I think we're everyone.
Yes, I do. I think it would be nice to have an uneventful season. The next item on our agenda is Miss Linda Bassnight. Miss Linda Bassnight is going to give you two reports tonight. She's going to give you the July report and the end of the 1920 report. And I would be remiss if I did not tell you that Miss Linda Bassnight celebrated a work anniversary this past week. Miss Linda Bassnight has now been with Hyde County for 50 years of employment with Hyde County. She didn't want me to tell y'all that. She's going to get me tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm gonna get you. You have one report, the one on the long paper is the end of the year 2019 tax collection. We're down just a little bit. I have here. Do you know?
96.18.
Right, and this year, according to the collection reports, it's 94.95. I'm not surprised due to the damage and destruction that Ocracoke suffered in Dorian and the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. But that's what it is. It could have been a whole lot worse.
And it might shake out a little differently
Once we get everything running, yes. So, I do need you to approve it and for Earl and Corinne to sign it.
Do we need a motion and a vote on the monthly, and a motion and a vote on the yearly?
Yes.
So let's, if it pleases the board and Ms. Bassnight, let's potentially look at a motion and a second for your monthly, which is your short form.
Let's do
Is that
the
okay?
yearly first.
Okay, yes, ma'am. We'll start with the yearly
All right,
report.
do I hear a motion to accept the yearly collections report from the tax office? Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. Do I hear a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Toppin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
And next is your monthly report for the month of July 2020. Our tax collections were up about a little over $2,000 from the same period of time in 2019, which is a good thing. That's on the short page, yes.
Move.
Do I have a motion to accept the July collections report from the tax office by Commissioner Paul. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Simmons. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, thing is, whatever it is, 6-7 pages long, and the first I've seen it is when I sat down here. Is there any chance of getting these reports in advance of the meeting so that I can actually have a look at it and try to understand it?
These reports, it's going to depend on the timing of the meeting. I cannot run them until the day after the last day of the month.
Understood.
And,
They usually fall on the weekend. So we'll
And-
get it on that day.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I will, that's up, Brenda had these to me when I was in the EOC.
Right, we were dealing with the
Yeah.
hurricane.
Yes, sir. So I did have this a little bit earlier than usual with our meeting. Right?
Yeah.
But quite frankly, it got pushed aside. And I think that the best that we can do, Tom, in regard to short notice is potentially looking at last month, the month ahead, if that makes any sense. So we will try to be as diligent as possible. I think that the most important thing is that we actually understand the report itself, because it is confusing if somebody's not attached to that. It's confusing to me.
Any further discussion?
If you notice in the upper left-hand corner, the run date was August the 3rd, and that is the earliest that I could run it because of the way the month went out. You had to have the meeting as scheduled. You would have,
It would have been that very.
it would have been that very same day.
Right, understood.
Ms.
Thank you.
Linda, what do you think are the most important numbers in that report?
Well, I think they're all important. The actual 2019 tax collection, like I say, is up from 17,466.86 from last year to 19,804.48 this year. And this shows your watershed, your West Quarter, and the ski tax, all of that. The whole collection of each year separate them. Is up about $18,000 because it goes back for the 10 years, or back to 2006 actually. And most of that is, or a lot of that is to be credited to Mr. Holscher and his efforts of working with us and giving people a little nudge to pay their taxes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the monthly collections from tax office? We have a motion.
We do have a motion.
Hearing no more discussion, do I, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now is the time we've all been waiting for. We have our audit presentation. Mr. Alan Thompson, I'd like to welcome you up to the podium.
So good evening to everyone. In front of you, you should have two reports. A small report looks like this, and that's the one I'm going to jump from. Hopefully, it's got a pretty good summary of all the numbers. I'm happy to delve deeper into the audit report itself if you like as we go through it. But if you'd be kind enough to flip over to page 1, I'll walk through a few of the written items here, and then we'll talk about the numbers themselves. The county itself did receive an unmodified report, which is quote unquote a good report, but there are several findings, and I'll try to go through some of those. Some significant findings, again, I'll talk about those in just a moment. On page 2, we were able to do the audit without any great difficulties as we got the information. There were no uncorrected misstatements at the end of the report, no disagreements with management. Management did provide us a representation letter dated July 1st this year. We're unaware that management consulted any outside auditors, et cetera. Should be no other findings other than what is inside the report itself. You see there on the bottom of page 2, several items that were repeated findings from prior years. And then on the back, on the very bottom, some additional items. In terms of dollar figures on findings, they were very minimal, like in total less than $1,000 in terms of question costs. Many of those findings are, quote, well, they are just simply findings. There's about 13 in the back of the larger report are technical findings in regards to reconciling. Could be anything from the 1571s to reconciling timely, the prior year adjustment, or technical items in regards to Medicaid. All those items have been discussed with the appropriate personnel and are going to be addressed, etc. Happy to answer any questions on those. They starting on, I think it's page 113 in the larger report, it goes in depth with each finding. On page 4, I don't say that these are all the key numbers inside the audit report, but what we do attempt to do is pull out some of the key numbers in the report and put them in the first column and then put the 4 prior years beside it, so you get a feel for what trends look like. So when we look at the very top number, which is the number most people ask about first, is what's the fund balance in the general fund. You see that number there, 5,115,000. You look back all the way back to 15, you see that number at 6.7 million. So you see the trend is definitely a negative trend going down. That does have an impact. You know, all the storms that come through definitely have an impact on the fund balance. Corinne may discuss with you later on some of the potential FEMA reimbursement that's out there, but we can't accrue any of that to add to fund balance until it's obligated to be spent at the FEMA level. Once it's obligated, then we can record it as a receivable. If that amount that she told me she got, and I've got a copy of it, is actually received, then it could change your fund balance significantly, but it has to be received and the process has to be worked through. Next number there is unavailable fund balance, $1,060,000, restricted fund balance at 2.171 million. Total general fund expenditures at 13,127,000. Fund balance is available as a percentage of your general fund expenditures at 30.89. Unassigned fund balance at 2,493,000, and unassigned fund balance as a percentage at 19%. Those two percentages are some of the percentages that the state, local government commission, or the state auditor, or anybody, when you ever go to issue debt, look at in order to determine the strength of the county, etc. Those two numbers and your tax collection percentage play a pretty good role in debt rating, etc. You see revenues over and under, expenses before transfers. General fund had a negative 606. Water sewer fund was negative 353. Next set of numbers, your cash and accumulated depreciation, your water sewer fund. You see total fixed assets at 18.6 million, accumulated depreciation at 8.4, and the cash at 970,000. The cash and fund balance, a net position, cash and general fund is 6.5 million. Water sewer again is 970,000, and other governmental is 1,450,000. Fund balance again in general fund is 5,115,000. The water and sewer fund is 8,438,000, and fund balance in other governmental funds at 2,226,000. The next line there has property tax rates for the 5 years, and then the collection percentage, and you can see it's 96.18 was the highest of any of the 5 years they're presented. Total property values, you can see that's declined some. Total levy amount also declined. Positive thing on this front page is you can see where the total debt has gone from 8,579,000 down to 6,451,000, which is good. And then you see a breakdown of your general fund revenues and your general fund expenditures on the bottom of the page. If you'd be kind enough to flip over to page 5 with me. What we attempt to do over the next several pages is try to show some of the numbers we just reviewed in graphs and charts to better give you an idea of what that looks like from a trend, but also in some of these charts, there'll be some group weighted averages, so you'll see where you stand compared to the folks in your group. Group, as defined here, is a group that the state has put out, and for the most part, it's based on population. So you could have an urban type county in it that's smaller, or you could have rural counties. And so that for sometimes the group weighted average is not as good a comparative as we would like. At the top, you see the analysis of your fund balance, total fund balance in blue and restricted in red. On the bottom, you see your percentage of general fund expenditures in blue, group weighted average in red, and you see where it crossed over there, which is not a good trend. On page 6, you see your unassigned fund balance as a percentage there. Again, dropping down to 19%. And then on the bottom of that page, on page 6, you see analysis of revenues over and under expenditures before transfers. And both the general fund and the water and sewer fund both had negative for the last couple of years. On the top of page 7.
Just to be clear, that's the amount that we drew from the fund balance then?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, sir.
That in red represents the amount drawn from the fund balance.
No, sir. The red simply there is the water and sewer fund, and the blue is the general
Oh,
fund.
I'm sorry. So
The line there.
when it's a negative line, that's the amount drawn from the fund
Yes, sir.
balance.
You're accurate. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. On page 7, you see your water and sewer fund, fixed assets, accumulated depreciation, and cash at the top. I will say this, I showed this number a couple times in this chart. The real key figure in the water sewer fund is just simply cash flow. It's not about how many fixed assets you got, et cetera. Whatever your need is, you just want it to cash flow. And on the bottom of that page, you see your cash balances and fund balances in a pie chart and the respective numbers underneath that. Total cash being $8,973,000 and fund balances at 15.7. And I'll say this again to make sure I'm saying this correct. When you go to your water sewer fund, even if your net position is real high, it really is meaningless if you don't have cash flow, because all your assets are in the ground. What you're really looking for is a cash flow. That's the real issue there, because what you're doing is providing a service to your citizens. And if the service is paying for itself, that's all you're really trying to accomplish. On page 8, property tax rates, you can see where they bumped up a little bit. You see it compared to the group weighted average there. Then on the bottom, you see your collection percentages versus the group weighted average. 96.18 again, being the best of the 5 years presented.
Your group weighted average on the tax rate, is that all of the state or is that this region?
It's not even a region, it's based on population. So you could potentially have folks out in the western part of the state, the southeastern part, the middle part. It's simply a population-driven group weighted average. But because it's a county group weighted average, it should be smaller rural counties.
I have a quick question in regard to that. Considering Hyde County is one of the only counties without townships, other municipalities within, would that graph change if the municipal taxes were added onto? And I'm trying to think how to say that. We may be above average, but if we did total tax across the citizens' payment, would it not be more similar if you added to the group weighted average municipal taxes that they were paying?
It could have an impact on that, yes, ma'am. For those people in the other groups included in that group weighted average, it could be a significant amount for them.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And we do quite a few counties. In fact, I think this year we're going to end up doing 25 of the 100 counties in the state. So we got a fairly good feel for it. The statewide collection percentage is slightly above 99% because you get some of the larger counties in there that drive that up. But from a rural standpoint, this is pretty typical. So I'm not justifying, I'm just telling you honestly what the deal is. Our rural towns, our rural cities, or not cities, but most of our rural areas, if you get above 96%, you're in a real good situation. And for the most part, I mean, obviously most of them, the rural areas would be smaller, but the only time we have a small population area that's got a really great collection percentage is when they're a tourism type scenario. Like we might do Castle Beach, and we do, and we've done that a couple of times where they had 100% tax collection. Because if you're on Castle Beach and you can't pay your property taxes, you're probably in the wrong spot. So on page 9, you see on the top property value and levy amounts at the top, and on the bottom you see the debt analysis. You see that little in parentheses, net pension obligations, compensated absence, OPEB. That's going to continue over time to drive up the cost. It's not something that shows up on a lot of debt charts, but it is a real number, but it's not something that you're going to sit here and ponder. I don't think of how to do this. It's a number that accountants and actuaries love to play with, because it talks about what your future benefits are going to be, how much they're going to cost. An actuary does a study and he brings them back to present value, and you put it on your balance sheet. So when you start looking at those kind of numbers, what you're trying to do is see if you can drive them down with policies, et cetera, and talking to people at the state level to see if there's policies or other things you can do, because I think Johnston County looked at this about 10 years ago and began to change some policies, et cetera, to try to look at it, because long-term it drives up your cost of doing business, what it amounts to. It is a real number long-term. It's not a real number in the present term, if that makes sense. I hope it trying to explain that.
That's pretty well what broke Ford and GM and everybody else's obligations to retirement funds and all that. Is that correct?
That's correct, and that's why you're seeing almost no private, I won't say no, it's very few private entities continue to offer pension and long-term and health care for retirees on a long-term basis, because it's hard to go out to the future and determine what that cost is going to be, and that's really what you're trying to do, and that's very difficult to do. Otherwise, like we've got a school district that 18% is what they're adding to salary for OPEB or retirement costs they have to pay into the state, in addition to payroll, et cetera. And so you're looking at 25 to 30% in some cases added to a salary for personnel costs. It's a very real number. And depending on what your policy is on certain things going forward, that percentage could potentially increase. It's real, but at the same time, it's a real cost of doing business to recruit and pay people too. So it's a challenge. I'm not minimizing that either.
Can you give an example of the two business type obligations, the general obligation and installment purchases? What would fall in those categories?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Looking for examples of the GO obligations as opposed to the installment purchase obligation in the debt analysis.
Traditionally, general obligation bonds is if you add something to the school, which it has school out there beside it. But if you went down and bought 5 or 6 vehicles for the sheriff's department, you'd probably put those on a installment note. That would be a good example of what that would look like.
Sure. What about the next two? Business type, it says general obligation, business type, and then installment purchases, business type. What are those in reference to? That's the green and the purple.
I'm trying to get there to. You got a mask on, all but we flip to, page 46, 7, 8, and 9, it'll detail out all the notes. One of those, I think, is a USDA note, and the general obligation note, a revenue bond, for water sewer bonds.
That's what I wondered, is some of this the water?
The 1,296,000 is the water bond,
Okay,
but those pages will give you the details and the terms, et cetera, on each of the debt items.
thank you.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I almost skipped page 10. Break down your general fund revenue by percentages in that pie chart on the top and expenditures on the bottom. When you look at the top, you understand why the property tax collection and the levy, et cetera, is so important, because it makes up almost 60% of the total revenue in the general fund. In the bottom, you can see human services, public safety, and education and general government are really the four large items on it. If I had to end, and I'm happy to answer questions, not just tonight, but if you go through the report and you got questions, you please feel free to give me a call at the office. If I happen to be out for some reason, tell them to give you my cell number. I'll be happy to talk to you. If I don't know the answer, I'll get you an answer. But the storms and other things over the last several years have put some significant pressure on your general fund balance. And recovering from that has also created some of the technical issues. Assuming you approve the contract for us to do it again for 2020, we are lined up to show up Monday to try to get the audit back out in a timely fashion and get back on schedule. But general fund balance is the real challenge that you face. And so sometimes that's difficult when you got a storm and you got to take care of your citizens. But from a other expenditure standpoint, the prudence involved there is where I think you got to really put some effort.
So the good news is the collection rate?
Collection rate, and that your overall debt balance continues to go down. So those are good items. The challenge is that general fund balance. And my guess is, and I don't ever try to guess too well what the state's going to do, but you'll probably get a letter from the local government commission going, your general fund balance is showing a negative trend. You know, what are you doing to address it? And you'll have to have a plan to show them how you're going to address that.
But with the money that we've got supposedly coming from FEMA, that should make the fund balance look better whenever that's put in checking account, I guess.
Absolutely. If all the funds that with Corinne and I've talked about were in your checking account today, your fund balance will be dramatically different. The issue is getting them obligated at the state level and the federal level. Once they're obligated so that they can pay, that would change it. And that can be part of your response back to the state, and also can be part of your plan to help get the fund balance back where it's needed to be.
Can we discuss what those numbers are, or is it too preliminary to even say?
Corinne would have a better feel on that than I would. I think she told me prior to the meeting, because she got the email today about 3:30 approximately, that it was about $4.6 million, which would change your fund balance incredibly. But the process by which that drawdown happens and the speed at which it happens is the challenge. And so that's where, you know, if depending on what all is required to get you there, you know, you might even consider, you know, and again, this is a Corinne and management and your decision, what you have to do to get there. And if somebody, a consultant, whoever can help you move it faster to get there from a cash flow perspective, a fund balance perspective, if you've got plans to issue any debt because it would have an impact on your interest rates, doing whatever you got to do to get there faster would be something that at least can think about. Because the documentation to get there, to get it actually money in the checking account, can be voluminous, to say the least. And then in the fall, y'all know this better than I do. I mean, I pray that what was said earlier, we have an uneventful storm season, because I live a stone's throw from the ocean on the southern part of the state, where we took a beating earlier this week. But as the storm season comes, FEMA gets busier, and so the faster you can get it in, the faster you're going to get it in your checking account.
Yeah, so I think a good statement to make, though, that makes me feel good is exactly what you said. Our general fund has gone down by $1.6 million, but our debt has gone down by 2.1. So, I mean, we pretty well swapped cash, paid off debt, and almost what is the look of the trend. And so it is good to see. It would be bad if you were losing general fund and gaining debt, but it looks that that's
And I agree with that. I do. The challenge is you can't continue to lose the debt. I mean, the general fund balance. You got to figure out a way to stop that.
borrow more money.
Again, I'm happy to answer questions. And also later on, if you've got a question, you read through it and you say, hey, Alan, I'll be happy to answer that. We appreciate you allowing us to do the audit. And again, anything we can do to help you, we're happy to do that.
Any more questions from Mr. Thompson?
For any of the findings, you said something to the effect of all of the net result of all of the findings was less than $1,000. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, sir, you did.
So these are only, these issues that are listed on page 113 are not significant in terms of the dollar amount. They're just procedural issues that we need to address.
For the most part, that is correct. There's no the dollar figures are small, but from a procedural and technical standpoint, I'm not minimizing the effect. I wouldn't put them in there. I'm required on some of them to definitely put them in there. So I'm not trying to minimize the findings. But I am saying from a dollar standpoint, it's a minimal number. From a reporting standpoint, it's something that and we've talked about with Corinne, that the plan there is a plan to fix them. And that is an item that will be in that letter from the LGC saying what, and then there is a response in the report itself, hey, we're going to fix it, and here's how we're going to fix it. But they're going to follow up on that as well. So that's another item that you'll have to respond to, again, making sure, hey, that's a lot of findings, what you're going to do. And part of it is, you have a big storm, et cetera, the focus turns to helping your citizens. I still have to say some stuff in the report about the bank rate wasn't timely. It's my job. That's what you pay me to do. But would you have rather had that done or had your citizens taken care of? That's what you got to understand too. So you got to take a little bit of windage with what I'm saying. But at the same time, when you're in the middle of that storm, you got to be able to have good information to make good decisions. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Do I hear a motion to accept the audit report?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Toppin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known, saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Do you want to go back to the fire department?
That's what I was going to ask the board. At this time, would we be able to present and the agenda is number 11. Yes, ma'am. It's number 11 on the agenda. At this time, would it be appropriate with the board to revisit Swan Quarter Towns, the resolution in support of the Swan Quarter Volunteer Fire Department substation that we spoke of earlier?
Thanks, wouldn't be, rest of the board agreeable? Yes.
Chief Stokesbury? Chief Stokesbury, we talked about this briefly prior to your arrival, and we tabled the item so that the board could ask you any questions that they might have.
Thank you all for allowing us to come and answer any questions that you might have. And I think, so far as what I've got, I've already give y'all everything that I've got, but if you've got any questions, I'll be glad to answer as best as I can.
My question is just wanting to be sure that Swan Quarter and Fairfield are working together, or however, we're talking about jurisdiction or something. I guess Fairfield's jurisdiction stops at 264 or something.
Well, their response district, stops at 264.
Right.
Their rated district stops before you get to the lake line on this side of the lake.
Right.
So far as the rated
well, I
district.
just wanted to be sure that the departments are, kind of working together and everybody's kind of on the same page, and it's not one department gonna do this without input from the other. And I want everybody to be sure I am in full support of the substation. But I just I want to make sure that, that everybody's kind of on the same page and understanding how things, I'm in support of it. I just think that Fairfield and Swan Quarter should probably work together to try to make sure that when that substation's getting implemented, how it's gonna work, and that both sides are getting input on it. Because I know that there's Fairfield guys that live on this side of the lake that are part of the Fairfield Fire Department. And so, anyway, I just, that's the main thing I have. I want to be sure that that's done.
Yeah, well, I'll say this about that, and this is all I know. I've heard a lot of rumors from the community, about different things that's being said and different things that ain't gonna happen, different things that are gonna happen. But so far as me being able to know the facts, so far as I know, everybody's on board with us.
Well, can I tell you, all this crap that we're getting watched on tonight ain't worth 5 cents.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. The departments
Yeah,
need to get together and quit listening to hearsay. She said, they said.
that's right.
And that's all I'm asking, is that the department sit down face to face and try to hammer it out. If somebody's got a problem or whatever, if everybody don't have a clear understanding, the best thing to do is to talk to each other.
That's right.
That's my opinion.
I agree.
And that's exactly right. He said, she said, they said.
Yeah.
And I think I told y'all what my granny said about they said. It ain't worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I don't mean that to be derogatory, but that's exactly how it is.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I want to ask a question, Ralph. Where exactly where it gonna be put at?
Right now, the plan is when you turn on NC 94, there's a vacant lot, and then there's a set of pine trees. It'd be where those pine trees are at.
The barn piece.
Yeah.
And who are you buying it from?
Mr. Earl Pugh.
Is that conference?
But they're not buying it from me.
You giving it to them?
Yes.
Okay, okay, so he's giving it to you.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know, that's be a question for the attorney, but I don't think there'll be a conflict in any of that. Because we're not using county money to buy, if we did buy it, we're not using county money to buy it with.
You're a fine man, Earl.
You're the first man told me that in many years. Thank you, Ian.
Different people ask me about it, and I kind of relate what we heard in meetings, and I think what people don't realize is just how many houses are covered by that substation and the amount of commercial properties. I think it extends out, if I'm not mistaken, to Manamskeet Seafood.
Well, wherever we build the station, it'll be 5 miles in every direction.
Okay.
That'll cover.
And so we're talking school, rated will be the school, the granary, and I'm telling this for everybody because I've had this conversation privately. We're starting, let's say, with the granary, a motel there, Chamber of Commerce, Senior Citizen Center, EMS building, the school system, ABC store, and then some more private commercial properties. So, I mean, it's a significant commercial hub and a significant savings, I think, in a rated district to the tune of 30% drop.
35%.
So-
And also the outpost and the crab house, all that would be.
In a rated district.
Some churches in, a little place called St. Lydia.
Right.
The church down there would be in, plus all the houses too. But we're just talking about commercial things, what you're mentioning.
And I was just relaying that to people about, I mean, when you ride through that, you really don't take into account how much is actually there, business-wise. And the school, of course, the school system is huge.
And to give you an idea, our district right now goes to Judge's Quarters, which is where Maisie and Dan Smith used to live, and Mapletown Lane. That's where it stops at. So where we build the station at, it would go either halfway between the next fire station or 5 miles from that station. So like in Fairfield's case, it's not going to be 5 miles to their district, so it would be half up is what it would be, which would be about halfway across the Lake Road. And it would take everything on this end of the Lake Road into a rated district and save a ton of money. Anything else?
And I will reiterate exactly, because the piece of property you're talking about, and again, I'm not trying to get into, he said, she said, but from what I understand, where the piece of property is currently in Fairfield's footprint, correct?
In their response district,
Okay.
yeah,
So that's-
not in their rated district.
Right, but I'm just saying that's currently in their
Yeah.
footprint, and so I think that having that conversation is very important.
Yeah. And
Because we're not gonna build it tomorrow,
Friday.
right?
The,
That gives you tonight.
yeah, and the thing about it is where we build it, you know, it's gonna take in the end of the Lake Road, wherever we build it, it's gonna be in that rated district. If we build it down to New Holland, it's still gonna be, the end of that Lake Road is gonna be in that 5 miles.
I don't know, that you really hadn't really been nailed down exactly where you are gonna put it. I mean, you
No,
have an
not
option.
100%.
Right.
That's the main place that we're looking at, but we haven't signed the paperwork yet. I'll put it like that.
All right, is there any more questions for Jeffrey?
Did you make a motion?
Yep. All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Swindell to approve the contract between the Stormwater Volunteer Fire Department and Hyde County. Do I hear a second?
I seconded that previously. I'm not certain we're making a motion regarding a contract, though.
It's
a resolution.
Well, it's a resolution, yeah,
Yeah.
to amend, it's actually a resolution to amend the contract between Stormwater and Hyde County.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a second by Commissioner Paul. Any further discussion, Commissioners?
I can count on you to work or talk with Fairfield and y'all, discuss.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we'll take care of that.
All right, any further discussion? Not, all those in favor of the motion, let it be known, saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you all. Thank you.
The next 3 items on our agenda will be presented by Ms. Corinne Gibbs, our finance officer. We will discuss a position name and classification change, 2 of those in EMS, and a change in authorized check signatories.
Good evening. We recently, our EMS director resigned, so we had to put somebody else as our EMS director to make some changes for EMS. We have reclassified, it is not adding a new position, we have reclassified a position. It is now currently as a EMT paramedic / section options chief. And that will be changed to EMS director. That's number 1. And I'm asking for approval of that title change for that position.
When you say this change would reclassify the pay grade of this position?
No, it's the same grade.
But it is an increase in salary.
It is an increase in salary, but it is the same grade.
This says it would change, this change would also reclassify the pay grade.
No, they're both going to stay at a 75.
Excuse me?
They're going to stay at a 75. That was a typo. We were, excuse me.
Okay.
They will stay at a 75. It will be an increase. It's a 5% increase for a 6-month probationary period and an additional 5% at the end of that probationary period for permanent status. So a total of a 10% increase.
Do I hear a motion to approve the reclassification of the EMS director?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Wendell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Simmons. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
The second is very similar. This is a currently titled position as an EMT paramedic / deputy options section chief, and I'm asking it to be changed to a deputy EMS director. Same grade, same situation, 5% increase for probationary status for 6 months. After the 6 months completion of the probationary status, an additional 5% for permanent status.
Do I hear a motion to approve the reclassification to EMS deputy director?
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Toppin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay.
I am coming to you because our HR director has recently left and she was a check signatory on our checks. So we are down one person. So I'm asking for authorization to remove our HR director as a check signatory and approve our grants administrator as a check signatory for checks on all bank accounts.
So moved.
A motion to change the authorized check signatories. We have a motion by Commissioner Paul. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Simmons. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corinne.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next item on our agenda is the Ocracoke Liaison job description adoption. Our Ocracoke Liaison has retired for maybe the second or third time. We keep pulling her back. She has been phenomenal, and she has supported us well. When I went to replace our Ocracoke Liaison, I realized that the job that she had originally accepted as a Assistant Public Information Officer had really morphed into what we call the Ocracoke Liaison. And there was not an appropriate job description that existed for this individual. And so what you will see is an attached job description that I think very clearly defines her job duties. And when I finish presenting that, I'm going to ask you to adopt this job description into our county pay plan. The Ocracoke Liaison. One change that you'll see, and I hope that you're pleased with, is our former Ocracoke Liaison had begun having regular office hours on island. That was very popular, and I support that. I changed the job description to have regular office hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. or as needed through special demands. And that time can be flexible and it can change, but not weekly. It'll be set and it'll be posted where folks can count on this person being in the community center office during these times. Underneath the general job description, this person is going to be in charge of working with all the different people on the island as a liaison to the services that are mostly here on the mainland. They will facilitate communications between our citizens on Ocracoke and various county departments and help them identify resources that they need and make those contacts. The liaison will have regular office hours, and during that time, they will assist residents with questions they have in regard to county departments and help them get available information. One of the biggest parts, the most important parts of this job are the reentry passes. After a large storm event like Dorian, the reentry passes become almost a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. And there's a tremendous amount of pressure. During the normal year, they also have a lot of job responsibilities in regard to reentry passes. And so that is a huge part of the job, are the reentry passes. This employee will be responsible for everything we need as far as having an extra set of hands or extra set of boots on the ground over there for meetings, setting up the meeting equipment the first Monday of each month, and for all other meetings that we may have. Also, they may have to take, they'll have to rearrange the room. They take meeting minutes. They're responsible for the facility and teleconference and equipment. We'd also like to find somebody we can appoint as deputy clerk to the board, because right now we have a clerk and one deputy clerk, and we would certainly like to have at least one other deputy clerk. And they're going to help as public information officer when they can to help back up the work that's happening with our current public information officer. Special demand. So this job's going to have a regular beat and then the special demand responsibilities that mostly come during storm events. But other times like your random power outages, disease outbreaks, other disasters, they're integral to our work there. During Hurricane Dorian, our Ocracoke Liaison actually worked with our residents in the disaster recovery trailer. And she was not only doing the reentry passes, but she was also in the disaster recovery trailer taking housing applications. And she was responsible for all of the housing grant applications that we took during the few beginning months. Luckily, that part of the job has now been picked up by our grant administrator. So she'll take all those hazard mitigation grant applications that the Ocracoke Liaison started and carry them through to the end. But if we have another storm, we'll rely on this position to help us with that again. There's a lot involved in this job, and I think I try to get it all in the job description, and I'm asking you gentlemen to approve and adopt this job description into the county pay plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Is there a motion to adopt the Ocracoke Liaison job description?
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Paul. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Second by Mr. Toppin. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that this job started off as kind of a not a real prominent position, kind of assisting the public information officer, and the individual who was in that job sort of continually built the responsibilities of it and took on responsibilities as, over a 2-year period, approximately, and really created that job out of necessity and in response to necessities. And I think this job description sort of describes exactly what the responsibilities that she took on, sort of, almost month by month as things developed and emergencies arose. She took on additional responsibility where, everybody was kind of scratching their head wondering how she even managed to do all of that. So it's a big job that started off as a small job. And I'm glad to see it here as a job that's clearly defined, whereas previously it was just an individual who was taking additional responsibilities. So I think she really set a standard as to, what these responsibilities are and how they can be executed. And in that it was sort of organically came about in response to need, that it's everything you could hope for in this position, because that's exactly what it did. Was each additional responsibility was in response to a specific need that arose. So I wholeheartedly endorse this. And if only every job could be defined in the way that this one is, so that it's a specific response to needs.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you, gentlemen. I would also like to add that in the interim, Mr. Shoemake has been taking on all the responsibilities of the liaison, in addition to all the responsibilities of our clerk. So kudos to him. And I know he's looking very forward to me advertising this position and getting someone in this spot. And Miss Lois's swift return. Next item on your agenda is the building inspector contract. As you know, we are under contract with Mr. John Contestable for building inspection services. Now, for those of you that don't know, we have John Contestable, who is under contract to provide building inspection services, and he is retired from another municipality and has all of his certifications, and normally does the majority of his inspections on Ocracoke Island because he's a resident of Hatteras Island. We also have a young man that works as our building inspector as an employee, who is being trained and mentored and is currently getting all his certifications under John. Each year, we reapprove John's contract, and that's what you see here will be an extension of his contract. And I believe County Attorney Holscher that the terms are all the same, excepting only the dates, as Franz revised it for me. And so I would like to ask this board to approve this contract.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul to approve the building inspector contract, a second by Commissioner Swindell. Is there any further discussion?
I'd like to say that John Contestable does a very good job. He's everything you could hope for in a building inspector. He communicates well, he responds quickly, he knows his business.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Next item on your agenda is a disaster recovery planning specialist. Months ago, we received money from the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency in an effort to help us recover from Hurricane Dorian. Within that grant money, we were allowed 2 grant-funded positions. One position was our grant administrator, and we chose to get that job off on its feet first We created the job description, and we now have that grant administrator in place, actively working on grants administration to help support our recovery. The second position that was approved was a disaster recovery planning specialist. This job description will outline the duties and responsibilities of this new position. This position will be a contract position. It will not be a full-time county employee, but it will be a contract for 3 years with an individual who will not be a county employee, but will work under contract with us for the next 3 years in an effort to accomplish these things outlined. The procurement of this contract is being made in an effort to meet our flood damage prevention ordinance. And I put a copy of the flood damage prevention ordinance recently adopted by this board in your packet, so you could further understand how comprehensive the job of this disaster recovery planning specialist will be. This person will help us to comply with all that we have promised within that flood ordinance prevention, or the flood damage prevention ordinance. And it will help us to not jeopardize our national flood insurance standing or our community rating system status. The loss of either one of these programs would be devastating to Hyde County, and it could impact our ability to obtain flood insurance and to get hazard mitigation funding. We can't allow that to happen, and this person will make sure we stay in compliance with the plans that we have adopted. You'll look at that. I have one correction to your attached job description, and I will admit I used the template from the last job description and accidentally made the supervisor the public information officer. And I'm not going to put that on Donnie. I will actually be the supervisor of this position, so that needs to be changed to county manager. They will work very closely with the building inspections office. Basically, we had over 400 structures flood on the island during Dorian, and it is our job as a county to track each one of those flooded structures and to encourage, promote, and require them to become compliant with our ordinance. And we'll do that with a number of different mechanisms: demolitions, elevations. We're working towards grant money for those that can't afford those elevations, but just the sheer housekeeping of keeping up with all of those structures and making sure that we have a plan of action to ensure each one of those structures is in an area of compliance. This is the job of this person. They're going to work really closely with the emergency manager. They're going to work really closely with the grant administrator to identify assistance. And they're going to work really carefully with the state national flood insurance planner to make sure that we are doing what we need to do. We just don't simply have the capacity to do it in-house. So I'm asking this board to approve this job description.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Paul to adopt the job description for disaster recovery planning specialist. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And second by Commissioner Swindell. Is there any further discussion?
I'll just say, you said there's an outside contracted person. Is this individual gonna work like normal hours, or are they gonna just, is it gonna be like they come in at 8 and they gonna work till 5, or they gonna just work when they want to, or how's that going?
I will work with this person to set up a schedule where I get the finished documents that I need. I don't know that I'll keep them on a time clock, but the contract position that we have right now does work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
And it's hourly pay, right? Didn't it say hourly?
Yes, sir. It will be broken down
Well,
into a
just to make sure,
contract.
that, you know,
I'll bring you the contract back so you can look at the contract. Right now, I just want you to approve the advertisement, and we will bring you back a contract.
Okay, any more discussion?
If this person holding this position did not do this work, who would do it?
We don't have the capacity to do it, sir, frankly. When we started working with NFIP and the flood coordinators, they came days after the storm. If you'll remember, they rode the state folks rode bicycles over before they were allowed to bring cars and helped us do our substantial damage reports. That in itself was a feat we could have never taken on in-house. We can't do it. Our building inspectors stay busy with building inspections, and Miss Jane would not be able to do this either. What other counties have done, we're not the first one to do this. This is recommended from North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency. And typically, a candidate for this type of position is a retired emergency manager, a retired planner who has substantial background in this type of work, or a retired head of building inspections for another county. So typically, you're looking at retirees from successful careers that come in and help us to put these things together.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Next item on your agenda is the Teachers Whole EMS Station lease. As you know, during Hurricane Dorian, our EMS facility was located on Back Road. That structure was destroyed by Hurricane Dorian. We are now in the process of working with the owners of that structure through insurance proceeds and FEMA to reconstruct their home. And we are no longer located in that facility. After the Dorian, we moved into rental house after rental house after rental house. My EMTs have packed up and moved out many times. The availability of a place to house them long-term was very difficult. We were very blessed this past month to find a spot at Teachers Hole on Irvin Garrish Highway. We have moved in. We got into a position where we actually had to do a really quick turnaround and move into the Masonic Lodge with UMCOR. The Methodist men were very good to us and allowed us to bunk in the Masonic Lodge while we found a place. And we were very lucky that we were able to find a place in Teachers Hole. We have moved in. I signed a short-term lease for the last 2 weeks. This lease will allow us to stay there in that facility until the end of this fiscal year, which will give us plenty of time to construct a new facility on the land that we own and near the Island Inn with the funding that we have received from Golden Leaf in the amount of $500,000. So I'm asking you to approve the lease for this temporary home for our EMS.
Is there a motion to approve the Teachers Hole EMS station lease?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Simmons. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
The next item on your agenda is a travel trailer emergency evacuation notice. And I'd like to ask Mr. Joey Williams to come up and help me present this item. I'm not going to leave him up here by himself, though. Prior to Hurricane I, prior to Hurricane I, we had been working because after we got Mr. Williams on board, we realized we had no hurricane evacuation plan in place for our travel trailers. And we worked busily to put that in motion and make sure we had our logistics in place. And our plan was to have this travel trailer evacuation notice approved by you all as an addendum to the current lease. And we worked with Franz to put this together in the long-term recovery group. And prior to having you all approve this addendum, we got in a situation and we actually had to evacuate the travel trailers. I will tell you that It was not an easy decision. And I will tell you, I stand behind the decision to evacuate the travel trailers. It is simply not safe to shelter in place in a travel trailer during a tropical storm or a hurricane. We will continue to evacuate those travel trailers, and we will get them out just as quickly as we can, and we will get them back in place just as quickly as we can to minimize the impacts on the victims of Dorian. And we have to begin very aggressively to work with the occupants of those travel trailers, come up with more long-term solutions, because it is not an ideal living situation. With that being said, I will allow Joey to talk a little bit more about the actual document, and you can ask him any questions, and County Attorney Holster any questions you may have.
So, Mr. Ivy Belch and his group came up with the amendment, and, well, we kind of went back and forth, and Mr. Holscher looked it over and told them what they had to have in it, and we were all good with it, and we were gonna come, like Chris said, we were gonna come before y'all on the meeting in August, and we just didn't have time to do it before a hurricane. What we really want to do is 120 hours out. If it looks like we're going to have effects from a tropical storm or a hurricane, 120 hours out, we're going to start trying to get people to leave the trailers, and so we can prepare and have them all. We did really good this time. We moved 27 trailers in 2 days. That's unhooking, loading them on the ferry, and bringing them here. That's pretty amazing, especially since the Swan Quarter ferry was only running one route, and we worked with the ferry system, and they got us a special boat a couple of nights. But 27 trailers in 2 days is pretty good. But it gives us time. The 120 hours gives us time for the families to pack up all their stuff, and for us to break down the trailers and get them home.
Does it say 120 hours in here somewhere?
I'm not sure if it says 120 hours. I think it just says we have a plan, and in the event of a declared state of emergency for Hyde County and mandatory evacuation of Ocracoke Island and/or some other appropriate reason other than the then current circumstances. But for me, 120 hours is stretching. So we have enough time. We'll make sure we have enough time.
Is removing these trailers sort of a mandate from the North Carolina?
Well, so
Emergency
as far as our emergency management funding, these trailers were bought with grant money, and if we don't make a good faith effort to get them all off, it's probably going to stop a lot of funding. So we have to make a good faith effort to get them all off. And plus, it's not safe for somebody to stay in the hurricane.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line, is it's just simply not safe to stay in the travel trailer during a hurricane. Now, there are travel trailers on the island that people live in full time that don't belong to the county. And some of those, some people move those out and others don't. Some of them are set up on blocks to meet the flood elevation requirements. Those are strapped down and they're up on blocks. So even those, I wouldn't recommend staying in anything beyond a category 1. And but those are placed differently. These trailers are not up on blocks and they're not strapped down. Is that correct?
Well, they have jacks, and there's like 4 jacks.
Yeah, but their finished floor isn't at code requirement.
Yeah, right.
This is temporary housing.
Yes, sir.
So there's a difference between someone who has a travel trailer that's permitted on the island that is set up on cement blocks and has strap downs to meet the code requirements against wind uplift. and someone who lives in a travel trailer is provided by the county as a temporary housing to get them through this emergency situation.
Correct. But we would just like for you to approve the amendment so we can get it out to all the clients.
Have the clients had input in this conversation?
Well, Mr. Belch's group, his caseworkers went around and talked to everybody, and they had really good success, and everybody was pretty happy as far as, when they went and talked to them. Nobody was really upset about, I know they were upset about having to move, but they understood why.
So you don't anticipate that there will be any problems, because this requires that those residents who've already signed the lease then sign this as an addendum to the lease, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you anticipate any pushback from?
Well, there's in the original agreement.
There's a clause in the original agreement that says that we can relocate the recipients of the travel trailers as needed. That is why we offered the travel trailer recipients other means of housing during this evacuation. We would have done that anyway, but we actually moved only one gentleman to an off-island hotel. He took us up on it and we moved him, but we would have most certainly made accommodations for those. Many people wanted to stay on island with friends and family. And so Franz felt like, and he can reiterate or explain why, he felt like a separate agreement would be more beneficial than utilizing the agreement in the already signed lease agreement. And it would have been much better if this storm had come in September and we had had August to work through these things with the owners. I understand that it must be quite an upheaval to have to leave the place that you're staying. But I also think that this is a wonderful opportunity to let's look at those folks' situations and look for more long-term solutions, frankly.
So this process of developing this addendum to the lease was underway when Hurricane I came along?
Yes, sir. It had already been placed on the agenda, and we had wanted to do this as a notice. However, county attorney felt like it needed to be an amendment for various reasons, and so we waited to present this to our travel trailer recipients until after this board could meet. We've never done a travel trailer project before. Hyde County's never needed to do a travel trailer project before. Our staff person that was in charge of the travel trailer left his position in mid-stride. And we have inherited the project, and we are trying to make it as nice and neat and tidy and beneficial to the people that need it as possible. And so in an effort to try to clean it up and make it a little more manageable, we started this process, and we just had a storm before we could quite get all our ducks in a row.
Thank you.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve the travel trailer emergency evacuation notice?
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul. To hear a second? Second. Have a second by Commissioner Toppin. Is there any further discussion?
You said you removed 27. How many were not removed? All of them.
Yes, sir, we got everyone. There was 24 in use,
Okay.
and there was 3 that were unhooked, but we got them all off.
Are we carrying them back now, or?
Yeah, 8 went back last night, 8 will go back tonight, and the last 5 that are going back will go back tomorrow night.
And of the 8 that went back last night, we received a text message saying all of them went back up. Okay?
So all 8 that were moved last night are hooked back up and able to be moved into, people moving in?
They've already moved into.
People have already moved in, okay.
So we really are making an effort to do it as quickly as possible. So if we are able to get everybody back in place, we could potentially have everybody move in, move out, and back in less than 7 days.
And I know 7 days is a long time when you don't have your home, but, it is just as quick as humanly possible, frankly.
It's the responsible thing to do.
It is a responsible thing to do so.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known, saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Joey, can you tell me how many of those travel trailers were originally placed?
I think there was 28 altogether that were placed, and we'd already moved one off. So there were 3 that were not in use, and we were in the process of having them moved off, or getting ready to have them moved off. Then the hurricane came, and so we unhooked 24 and brought back 27.
And we'll be rehooking up a total of
20.
20. So that gives you some idea of the progress that some of our homeowners are making. So that's 8 families that have been able to get back on their feet and get out of their travel trailers. So, and we will, as soon as we get that last trailer in place, I start working with the long-term recovery group in Ocracoke Monday to talk about, let's look at these cases and let's give these folks the tools they need to get out of these travel trailers and get back in their houses, or get them a house to live in some capacity.
Appreciate it.
Urgent repair program policies and guidelines. I'd like to ask Ms. Stephanie Watson, the Hyde County Grant Administrator, to come and co-present this with me, and ask you to be kind because she's a bit nervous about appearing before this board for the first time. Stephanie's our new grant administrator. We've talked about her a lot tonight. The urgent repair grant program is very unique. Hyde County administers housing grants all the time. You all know that. We've got Irene stuff and Floyd stuff and Matthew and Dorian grant applications out there. And the problem with that money is that anyone that needs help to repair their homes, and it's not tied back to a named storm, have very little options. Very little options. The urgent repair program, which is administered through the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, is an exception. This is a valuable opportunity that we have to help some folks repair their homes that may not fit into a spot where they were able to get assistance through a storm repair. This is meant to assist very low income folks, elderly folks, disabled people, single parents with multiple children. These helps the folks that really need the assistance. The grant awards for $97,500. Hyde County matches it with $2,500 for a total grant of $100,000. We will repair 10 homes with up to $10,000 per home. What I would ask this board to do tonight is approve 2 policies that we must approve and send back to NC Housing Finance Agency to proceed. And these were based on templates from North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. And Stephanie has worked with North Carolina Housing Finance Agency people to put these together for Hyde County. The first one's the procurement and disbursement policy. The second one's the assistance policy. And we would like to ask this board to approve both of these policies so that we can proceed with the project. Stephanie, would you like to add anything?
You covered it all very well.
Say they don't like what you're supposed to do, so.
Could you go line by line, please, and explain?
No, thank you.
Stephanie's learning by fire. She stepped into 114 pending HMGP applications, and I've got her working on all the Dorian money we've had, and now comes URP. And so she is learning well, she's working hard, and this is going to be a great learning experience for both of us. So are there any questions in regard to these plans and policies?
I think this is a good grant because we do have a lot of people that need some help that don't qualify because they didn't get damage from a hurricane. Just, damage that's been there just, over time. And I know several that would really benefit from this.
And to be clear, we've been talking a lot about Ocracoke, but I think this is Hyde County total.
Yes, sir, we've worked so hard since Isabel. What's Isabel been now, 18 years? Close to 15 years. We've worked really hard.
17.
We've worked really hard since Isabel to try to get our houses, especially, we had more opportunities for elevations and reconstructions on the mainland. When you go through downtown Swan Quarter, you'll notice that almost every home on Main Street is elevated. The ones that have fallen through the cracks are those that have very poor homes, but they have not been able to get the resources that are out there for those houses that have flooded. And so it's a great opportunity.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve the urgent repair program policies and guidelines?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Swindell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Topper. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known, saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you, Ms. Watson.
You did good, Stephanie.
I will tell all of you that are out there watching from home, if you're interested in this grant, Stephanie is right now developing the application. I'm flipping through here to find her timeline. I believe, here we go, on page 8 of 10 of the assistance policy. The applications will be available to the public starting August the 15th. And when we get those applications ready, they will be on the website, they will be on our social media channels. We're going to do our best to get them out to the Hyde County Senior Center and get them out in the newspaper. And we're going to really try comprehensively. But if you or somebody you love is in a position where you have very low income, disabled, veteran in your home, and you know of a case where they think these folks might qualify, give Ms. Watson a call here at the Government Center. The main number is 926-4400, and you can reach her like that, Stephanie Watson. After the 15th, she'll send you an application, and hopefully we can get some folks the help that they need.
And it also says here that the applications are due by 5 p.m. on September 25th, so it's not a long time turnaround. That's about 6 weeks.
Yes, so we're going to do a huge push to get those applications out there and try to advertise them as aggressively as possible.
So anybody interested should move on it quickly, starting October 15th.
Next item on your agenda, we're getting there, gentlemen. MOU, this is one of the longest agendas we've had in a very long time, and I appreciate you all. MOU for the National Park Service Sediment Management Framework. National Park Service has invited Hyde County to participate as a cooperating agency in an environmental impact statement process, and they will evaluate the alternatives for permitting sediment management within Cape Hatteras National Seashore over the next 20 years. So, for example, beach nourishment projects, road construction projects, bridge projects in and around National Park Service land, so essentially from the village of Ocracoke to South Dock. They're working on this plan. This is a very proactive step because if they go through the long process of approving this EIS, they'll have it in place when we have a breach or when we need to do some emergency road repair. So it's very proactive, and we're very happy to be able to join our partners. Partners on this project with NPS are Wildlife Resources, DOT Ferry, DOT Highway, Army Corps, the Pea Island Refuge, the Coast Guard, and Doran Hyde counties. And I've been participating in these calls and would like for these board members to accept this MOU of participation.
Do I have a motion to approve the MOU with the National Park Service Settlement Management Framework?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Simmons. Is there any further discussion?
Just like to say how grateful we are to David Howitt, the superintendent of the Cape Hatteras National Seashore, for this kind of proactive approach to these problems. We're so lucky to have him in that position. Just want to give him a shout out.
I agree, sir.
Very
Thank you.
fortunate to have me. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor, let it be known, saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
The last item of consideration, I was very tricky putting this as the last item of consideration, so I knew I'd keep my finance officer here with me, and it is the FY 1920 audit contract. I'd like Ms. Corinne to present it.
In your packet, you have the 1920 fiscal year audit contract. It describes everything that is performed during a county audit. Also, it states the price. I don't have it right. Yes, I do. Yes, it is the same. And I am asking that you approve Thompson Price Scott Adams and Company as our auditors for the fiscal year 1920 audit contract.
Do I hear a motion to approve the 1920 audit contract with, I guess it's with Thompson? Same contractor, isn't it? Corinne?
Yes, sir.
How long we've been with these
Thompson
guys?
Price Scott
This will
now.
be their 5th year.
5 years.
I believe he said he did about 25 counties in North Carolina.
Yes, sir, and several more of the municipalities.
There is a motion to approve this contract. Have a motion by Commissioner Paul, do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Swindell. Is there any further discussion?
How many years do you normally use the same company, or have we used same company? I'm new, I've been here 2 years now, so.
Well, oddly enough, we had Pittard, Perry, and Kern out of Bellhaven for over 20. And then we had Andrew Harris CPA for, this is their 5th year, 8 years. So we've never, Pittard, Perry, and Kern was it forever.
Gotcha.
And then we switched to Andrew Harris CPA in 2008. And then the last 5 years have been Thompson Price Scott Adams.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known, saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate you gentlemen approving that audit contract. If you would like to consider going out for proposals next year, I would completely understand it, and I appreciate you not making us do it this year. It's been a heck of a year, and we're already behind getting our audit in due to the storm, and we're ready to start our new audit starting Monday. And so I appreciate you moving forward with our auditors, and if that's something you're interested in next year, we'll talk about it earlier and we'll go through that process. Budget matters. Fran, do you want to present these budget matters? You're so much better at it than I am, ma'am.
Okay, the first one is the sheriff for a pavement project. Let me go ahead and explain this whole pavement project. It's a 3-way project between the Health, Sheriff's Department, and utilities to do that whole parking lot down there, which has been an issue and been on the agenda for several years. There's a pavement company who has, agreed to do it for $75,000. All parties have agreed and they have the money to do it outside of the already existing budget. It will not raise the budget any. They are all gonna move some money around. They haven't all had a chance to get the budget revision in. This is for the sheriff's department portion of it. Utilities, as you know, is enterprise fund, so that's not anything that has to do with general fund budget. And Ms. Gibb, with the health department, is going to use the escrow, which you're well aware of the escrow amount, but their savings that they have set aside. And this is the first budget revision that I've received to proceed with that project.
Basically, gentlemen, paving costs are at an all-time low. The time is right to pay the interest in the health department, the sheriff's department, the water department. The estimate is the nominal price. And the three entities that are going to benefit from it have split it into thirds. And so they're going to cost share it.
Yeah.
And it could not be much more of a better situation to go ahead and get the parking areas paid. As you know, we've had a lot of issues over the last few years with driving on those unpaved areas.
I'm just curious, we just adopted a budget. Is there a reason why this wasn't included in the budget?
It was not even an idea until after the budget. This just came about last week before. Last week was hurricane. It was the week before that this came about.
It's always been a dream, Commissioner Paul, and it's always cost too much for us to even consider it. With the price of asphalt paving, rock bottom, it's, about a third of our last cost estimate to get it done. And, we feel like the time is of the essence, and our three entities that are able to fund it already have, healthy savings accounts, for more lack of a better word. The water department has a healthy reserve. The
Health department has
a
this.
reserve.
And this one from the sheriff's department is just moving some money around so they don't increase their budget at all.
It'll be very popular with our citizens if they do continually complain about the potholes going in all three of these areas.
Can you explain how the, is it the Medicaid reserve fund or?
Yes, sir.
Explain how that works.
Every month we have Medicaid escrow monies. It's called, it's called at aid to county. It's called a worm report that I have to go in and approve every month. Luana sends me. She has to go through all of her departments and cost share with all of these different positions. It's just like the 1571 with DSS. And it is a situation where she puts in all of this time for these different departments and they send money. It goes into I've got 18 different lines that go into a Medicaid escrow account that goes from adult health, child health, immunization, STD treatment, and it's all a savings account that she is allowed to acquire by state statute and use for particular improvements.
So it's okay to use this funding that's set aside from Medicaid, it's okay to use that funding to pave a parking lot?
Yes. When this all came about, I asked her about using those funds to use that because we didn't want to increase the budget at all. She called the state and was approved to use that money for paving improvements.
So the state has approved that?
Yes.
So this paving improvements will be budget matters from the three departments.
Yes.
Health and
Yes,
sheriff's office.
that's correct. This is just the
And
first
it
one
doesn't
we have.
increase the budget, they're just using money they already have.
No, sir.
I do hear a motion to approve the budget matters with paving improvements.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioners Wendell, do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Thomas. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
The second budget revision, the health department received funds from the Department of Health and Human Services for the Women and Children program. It does increase the budget, but the revenue has already been received.
Not local money.
No, state money.
So moved.
Have a motion to approve the health department, budget matters. Mr. Paul, do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Simmons. Is there any discussion? No, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried.
Your next budget revision also increases the budget. This is from the Kate B. Reynolds grant. This is a grant that is a multi-year grant and has carryover funds every year, so they have to be reapplied year after year with the leftovers from the prior year. This is for capital outlay, and it is state money that's just rolled over year after year for a multi-year grant.
Hear a motion to approve the DSS, CPS, CPS. This is health department.
Yeah, all of these are health department that I'm explaining
Okay,
right
item
now.
number 3 down there, that's,
Yeah.
that's the carry.
Usually do them all as different.
Yeah.
Does it increase the local budget at all?
News.
Any of the health departments?
No local budget.
How many more health department amendments do we?
A lot.
Can we go over them all? Let's do it on one motion.
They're all, they all do increase the budget, but they are all between COVID funding, federal funding, state funding, and carryover funding. It is no local appropriation at all. They all do increase the budget, but it's by no local money.
I hear a motion to approve the remaining health department budget matters.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Swindell. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
The last one is DSS. They also got some federal funding that passed down to the state for COVID for additional hours pulled by some employees that do this at Department of Social Services. So this will increase the budget, but it's money that they are sending for those additional hours where they usually take comp time. They will get paid overtime for the amount of the increase.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Paul, a second by Commissioner Simmons to approve the DSS budget matters. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you for reading. All right, it's time for management reports. Anyone, you want to start? You've been digging potatoes.
Yeah, been digging potatoes. No, I just think we need to continue. I know on Mesquite Association, there's a lot of FEMA work going on now that working with like flood prevention on the northeast end of the lake. And, you know, we keep talking about the Mesquite watershed stuff. So I know there's still talk about that and creating this, you know, getting all that plan finalized. So maybe we can help better reduce the level of water around the lake in different areas. So I'm just still harping the same thing. We need more pumps and lower levels of water. That's about it.
Yet another busy month. We started off the month with a meeting that I went to with Manager Noble and our new emergency management director, Joey Williams, and we talked about what we might do in the event of a storm, and then we got to put that into practice later on in the month, and that pretty much wraps up my report.
Plus a lot of calls in between.
A lot of calls in between, a lot of meetings. And again, the Ocracoke Control Group did a great job. Everybody on the island, you know, we lucked out on this one, but we didn't have to. It didn't have to go the way that it went. And we did everything that we needed to do leading up to it. The decisions that we made to evacuate, the timing, the decisions relative to the trailers, everything, I think was done as well as could be done, given that we had a storm bearing down on us. So just everybody involved, great teamwork. As I said at one point to the control group, we're a well-oiled machine, unfortunately. but we are a well-oiled machine. And I appreciate very much everything that everybody did, control group and county staff, state emergency management. Everybody worked well together, and let's hope we don't have to do it again.
Anna?
Just kind of echoing what they said, it's been a tumultuous season with the Dorian and then the virus, and then the way we're dealing with public entities and private loss and how everybody's come together. And the resilience of people in this county still astounds me. And I'm thankful to be from here. I'm thankful to live here. And with people that visit us, they see what we've got here, and I'm appreciative of it.
Okay. Cody, you have anything?
Not tonight,
Okay.
maybe next month.
Well, let's see. I attended the Albemarle Commission this week, where Albemarle Commission is still working. Their workforce development is going. Most of it's done from home, and the home delivered meals, I think that's increasing. They've had a 50% or better increase in those. So, but the senior center's closed, but those people are getting meals delivered, still having congregate meals. Today, I was on a conference call with the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, where we had a business session where we elected officers for that organization for the next year. And that was about an hour call with 100 counties involved in it, so it took more time to call the roll than it did to take care of the business. But anyway, it got done. So I think we got another meeting next Friday. And we spent a lot of time on telephone calls with Eric. What, Chris?
Sir, I don't have a report. I think I've talked enough tonight. Most of the agenda items have caught you up on what we've been working on. As always, it's an honor and a pleasure to work for each one of you and to work for each one of our citizens in Hyde County. So thank you.
And Goldie, we like to welcome you here. I look forward. I'm with all my contact information.
Thank you. Ms. Goldie,
You just give any of us a call.
You improved the makeup of the board. You're a bright spot in the line.
All right. Do we, public comments, have anything online that we need to read?
Yes, sir.
We did not have any additional public comments, but I have one. Our census return rate has not increased a lot since the last time we spoke about this at the meeting. And just recently, they changed the counting efforts will stop on September 30th instead of a month later as was previously thought. So I just want to let everybody out there that's listening or tell your friends and family, we really need to get this done. We're only at 38.5%. If we get undercounted, it's going to be a decade before we can get this done again. And much of our funding for federal disaster aid, road work, social programs rely on these numbers. We're already a small county, so it hurts us tremendously if we get undercounted. So just pass that on to your people, let them know. My 2020 census.gov takes 5 minutes to do. Thanks.
Is there any comments from the audience? Okay, Jeff.
As y'all know, Justin Gibbs left us several weeks ago. And I had some discussion with Chris about what was going to take place with all that, and she assured me that things was going to be okay. And then I found out that it was turned over to Joey Williams and the sheriff's department, and I had my doubts. And I met with Joey, I met with the sheriff, and told them that. I told them that I really had my doubts that this thing was going to work out. But we just had a major storm, and I was able to be in the EOC and work with these guys a lot during this time. And I haven't seen it work as good as it's worked in years as it did this time. And I just commend y'all for the job well done. And I told Joey a few days ago that I wanted to talk to Chris and him about this. And their mouths kind of flew open like, oh no, what have we done wrong? And I was sitting there thinking tonight would be a good night to talk to them about that. So there you go. Thank y'all.
All right, is any more reports from commissioners? I would like to welcome Ms. Tess Judge here tonight. Pardon me for waiting so long, but welcome. Thank you, and glad you came, and welcome back anytime. Is there any more business to come before the commission? Not, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Simmons.
Seconded.
Seconded by Commissioner Paul. All in favor, let me know, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, we are adjourned. Thank y'all.